everyone. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Allison. Did we forget a part of that intro?
I don't think so. Usually I'd just be like, hello, I'm Stephanie, I'm Allison, and welcome to Nerd of the Week.
Yeah, there we go, Nerd of the Week. I think that's the part we forgot. but maybe we didn't forget it.
No, it's I'm Stephanie, and you say I'm Allison, and then I continue with, and this is Nerd of the Week, a randomly generated fandom podcast.
Oh no, it's been too long.
In December, and now we don't know how we do this anymore.
Oh jeez. Well, this is an excellent start to the new year, new podcast, new us.
Happy 2024. Yay! If you listened to the McElroy's naming of the year, happy fun galore.
I was so happy to hear that. Oh, that made my day. I was driving home from the airport while I was listening, and I was just cackling in my car the whole time. It was great.
Me too. He heard your wish.
But we're not allowed to talk about him anymore. So, listener, if you're curious, go listen to the most recent My Brother, and Me.
Mm-hmm. They named the year, and it's a gem. So, welcome to Nerd of the Week. What are we doing? Generator, help. Tell us what we're doing.
Yes, I will help you. The word of the week is undermine.
I feel like we're undermining ourselves here.
We are the definition of undermining this podcast at the moment. But, we never threatened to be professional, so.
Threaten?
Yeah. That's the word I said, and I said what I said.
You know what? I think sometimes you do threaten to be professional when you try and NPR the intro.
You listen.
It's very threatening.
Listener, let me know if I'm gonna give off a threatening vibe when I give the intro, or if I am just here and vibing. But it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Oh, jeez. What do we do now?
Chaotic intro. Tell me the definition of undermine, or what you think Google said.
Yeah. So I think that Google said that undermine means to sabotage a person or group effort. I think that's it. That's all I have.
All right. It's got two definitions.
No.
Both are verbs.
Wait, I've got another one.
All right.
To dig underneath something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
So the first definition is to erode the base or foundation of, and then in parentheses, a rock formation.
Okay.
But I think you could undermine literally anything.
I could undermine the foundation of a house.
Right. Or a tree, or I don't know, other things that are sitting in one location that you can go underneath. But
undermine the wall of a big building.
Yeah.
Or a fence around a garden.
Yeah. Like
can I tell you?
Carrots.
I'm sorry, I have to tell you this.
Yes,
if we're talking about big fences.
Big fences. What's big fence done to you?
Okay. Big fence out here trying to ruin everyone's lives. So the reason I'm thinking about this is because I brought it up when I was visiting my parents. So sorry, parents, you've already heard this.
Okay.
In my phone, I have a list of things to play Two Truths and a Lie. You know that team building game where you say two truths and one lie, and they have to pick out what's the lie?
Yeah, and I always panic, and I end up lying all three.
Yeah. Or I just can never think of anything good. So I started writing them down, except I started writing them down after the time in my life where I'd ever play this game.
I was going to ask, how frequently is this coming up that you have a notebook of it?
Literally never, which is why I'm bringing it up.
Okay.
So one of my truth/lies, depending on how I phrase it, is I once escaped from a government scientific facility that I was locked in against my will. And do you want to know how that's a truth?
Was it a research lab you were working in?
It was not. But it has to do with research. So I was doing a summer research program a few years, while we were in school. And we went to Washington, D.C. to present our little research projects. There we go. At the NIH. However, they had like this reception for us at the National Zoo, the Smithsonian Zoo. And after the dinner, our little group wanted to go walk around the National Mall because, like, we're in Washington, D.C. Let's go see the cool things.
Of course.
However, they wanted us to get back on the buses and just go back to the hotel. And also the zoo was closed. So all of the normal in and out gates were closed and locked. The only way we could get out technically was with the buses. And there was no sidewalk where the buses were. So we didn't walk in front of the buses. We climbed over the wall instead. So that's how I escaped a government scientific facility.
I mean, technically.
I know, technically, yes. That's why it's not a lie. But it's also...
Technically correct is the best way to be correct.
Exactly. And that's how you play this game, is technically correct. So anyway, I'm sorry to bring that up. That's what Big Wall did to me. And I didn't undermine it. I went over it.
Gotta watch out for Big Fence, and you gotta undermine or go over Big Fence. Don't let Big Fence get in your life.
Yeah.
Or block your life. Block your path. Block your path. Don't let Big Fence block your path.
That's our new saying for 2024. Okay, thank you for letting me have that diversion. I'm sorry to all the listeners for having to listen to that. That has nothing to do with what we're actually talking about today. Thank you for indulging me.
I mean, technically it kind of does with undermining. The other definition, in case anyone cares, is to lessen the effectiveness, power, or ability of, or gradually, especially gradually or insidiously.
Ooh, insidiously. I like that.
Yeah, and the sentences for these are actually legitimate.
Oh, wow, okay. That's new.
I know. This could undermine years of hard work.
Nice.
And the flow of water had undermined pillars supporting the roof.
Wow, I am
Both of these are
proud of Google. That's amazing.
Yeah. The photos, though, because they're always delightful, is...
Yeah, describe these images on the audio podcast again.
On the audio podcast.
I love it.
It gives me joy, and I have to subject you to it.
It gives me joy, too. No, please tell me.
So it's like a bar graph, and there's a green one,
okay,
and then 3 yellow ones next to each other. And on the green one is the tallest, and then the one next to it is the shortest, and then there's like medium height, and then a little bit smaller.
Okay.
Each one has a person standing on this bar graph looking thing. And this guy on the smallest has an axe that he's hacking away at the green bar graph. And it says, always be careful of the jealous underminer.
That's evocative. I love that. Wow.
Yeah. So there's your Undermine audio podcast describing a visual medium. And speaking of jealous underminers, I'm going to bring up my book that I've brought for us today.
Okay.
Which is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune.
Ooh, I've heard of this.
It's adorable. It's a cute romance. I absolutely love this author. He has a very fun style. He gives like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy vibes.
Oh, really? Okay.
In his writing. And my husband recognizes the font and the covers of these books as, isn't that the book by the guy that made you cry that one time? And the answer is yes. One of the books did make me cry. It was not this one.
It wasn't the guy himself. It was the book.
No,
okay.
It was the book. Under the Whispering Door made me cry.
Aww.
But it was a good cry. And it was like, when you need a good cry, it was like the perfect timing for a good cry.
Aww.
But The House in the Cerulean Sea is the first one I read by him, and it gives, the beginning of Hitchhiker's Guide where he's just like in this like awful job and just bored out of his skull. Mm-hmm. It kind of sets up like that. So our main character is Linus Baker, and he is a 40-something-year-old caseworker who works for DICOMY, DICOMY, which is the department in charge of magical youth.
Ooh.
And it's a government organization that manages magical beings, and specifically orphans who are minors. So this is set in this world, but an alternate reality in which there are people with magic powers. And they're not like crazy usually, but they're like different classifications. Sometimes it's just you kind of look a little different. Sometimes it's like you have telekinesis. Nothing super world ending, but a couple of them can be. And so he's bored out of his skull. And he is like he does a really good job of describing like the first couple chapters of just it feels dull and like a office job with a being in a cubicle that's like gray and you're only allowed one photo on your desk and you can't stand out, and you get, I think they're demerits or something like that if you are having some extreme emotions that day. And his boss is like really grumpy. I think his name's Gunther or something like that.
Of course it is. That's the perfect name.
And then the extremely upper management wants to talk to Linus. And like, it's just the way he like refers to things is just sublime. But, we get like the setup, and then Linus lives alone in a house from, I think his mother had passed away and he lives in her house. And I think it's supposed to be akin to somewhere in like England or Britain.
Okay.
But that's the vibe it gives with like all the houses like lined up one right after another, and they're like really tall and like 1-bedroom houses. And he's got like a nosy neighbor who complains to him all the time because his cat, whose name is oh god, what's his cat's name? Calliope? Calliope. Calliope. She's been chasing squirrels, and the neighbor is like upset that the cat chases the squirrels away, and so she's like, you need to stop. And Linus is like, I've had this cat since I found her when she was a kitten, and she refuses to leave my house because of the global cat distribution system. And so the neighbor's like, you don't go anywhere and you don't have any girlfriends and blah, 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 blah. And he's just like, okay. So he's just like sad and depressed. He's in his 40s. He's alone. People keep calling him fat. And he's like, maybe I could lose a pound or two, but like, I don't think I'm that bad.
Rude.
And then he goes up the next day after being told that he's going to be talked to by extremely upper management, that there are a couple of people waiting to meet him. And one specifically is like, we're going to send you to a island. I don't remember the name of the island, but it's this island off the coast of the shore that you need to go check out, and you need to look at this orphanage, and we're on the brink of shutting it down because they don't file paperwork and no one's been adopted from it and this, that, and the other. And so he's like, okay, I guess. And they like that he's emotionally detached and he's shut down places in the past. Not specifically orphanages, I don't think, but like he's been really, air quotes, harsh in his grading, and they want him to be harsh and basically completely close this orphanage.
Okay.
And
sounds mean, but okay.
Yeah, they're not great people, but and then they basically like pack him up and send him on his way. So he goes to the island with his cat, and they take a ferry to the cerulean waters of the ocean. And it's the first time he's ever seen the ocean. And he's like, God, there's just a lot of color here. It just seems really pretty. And he just is enjoying the view and is like, maybe this won't be a terrible stay while I'm here for, I think it's a couple of months. I think he's there for like 2 or 3 months to like observe and write down everything. Mm-hmm. And he's supposed to meet with Arthur Parnassus, I think is how that we say the last name.
Parnassus?
Parnassus, Parnassus, I think.
I think that's Parnassus.
But
here's me
Arthur.
Not looking at the word, so I have no idea.
Parnassus, unclear. But Arthur. And Arthur is the head of the house, and he's the one taking care of the orphanage. And there's currently 6 kids in the orphanage itself. he goes into town first because there's a town, and then I think he takes a small train waiting to be picked up. And so Zoe is the caretaker / maid of the orphanage. So Zoe picks him up, and she is, I believe she's some kind of fae. So she's described as being like very light and airy, and kind of is very protective of the kids because she herself didn't have any parents growing up. So she wants to make sure these kids are okay. So she starts really cold towards him because she kind of knows that his job is to undermine the orphanage and like basically shut it down. But as they talk, she admits that she's unregistered, and apparently all magical beings are supposed to be registered, and like basically government bureaucracy, like keeping people down kind of situation. And then
you can't register the fae. Come on.
Right?
What are they trying to do?
Right. Here's me talking about fae again.
We love it.
So they get to the house on the Cerulean Sea title, and the crate. He drops the crate and his cat gets out, and so he's running through the garden to find his cat, and he inadvertently meets a small girl who's a gnome. Her name is Talia, but I think she's something insane, like 263 years old, but she's not an adult by gnome standards yet. She has to reach 500 before she's considered an adult. And so he tells Talia that he can't find his cat, and he calls for Theodore. And Theodore is a wyvern who
isn't that a dragon?
It is a dragon. And
does he look like a dragon?
He does.
Okay.
And he can't really talk, but he wants to have a horde because he's a dragon, and he read that dragons are supposed to have hordes. So he asks for a gold coin in exchange for his help looking for the cat because he's got a better nose than both Talia and Linus. And so Linus is like, okay, so he like pats himself down and realizes he doesn't have any coins on him, but he has this like gold little button, so he hands it to him, and Theodore's like super excited and like pulls it in and like holds on to it, and it's just the cutest. And while they're talking about it, Fee is another forest sprite, comes in, and Linus is told, I believe by Talia, that young sprites are more dangerous because they're not in charge of their power, and part of the reason that oh god, there's so many names, Zoe is there is to help Fee with her sprite powers and sprite fae powers. And then he asks where Arthur is, and Talia says that from 5 to 7, the kids are allowed to kind of go about their business while he works specifically with Lucy. And we find out later that Lucy is air quotes evil incarnate because he's supposed to be the devil's son. And he's like, my real name's Lucifer, and I'm the devil or the Antichrist. And they want to shut this place down because I'm here.
Oh.
And Lucy likes to say things for the shock value. So he'll say things out of nowhere and then just kind of look at you. He's like, I'm going to tear out your soul. And then he'll just smile evilly. But like, he's a good kid.
Oh my
he's
God.
just a ridiculous child who a bunch of people fear him. So he's come up with this dark humor so that people will laugh instead of like be scared of him. Then there's also Sal, who is a large kid, but he can shapeshift, but only into a 5-pound Pomeranian. And he's very scared of Linus because Arthur had given them all a prep talk about how they needed to be on their best behavior while the auditor was there. And so he's convinced that Linus is going to take him away from his home. So he's like terrified of him. And Lucy shows up claiming to be hell incarnate, and then the sky gets dark, and Arthur tells him, cut it out, you're being ridiculous. And then Lucy's upset that he can't use his dark evil powers and goes like trudging off. And there's one more kid who he has like, he's like a slime thing. It's Chauncey. No one really knows what Chauncey is. He's just a good boy, and he really wants to be a bellhop when he grows up.
Oh, that's cute.
He's got like 2 little stalks for eyes, and he wears a little like fez for like a bellhop hat, and he is always offering to pick up people's bags and put them other places, even though they're where people want them to be. And it's just really adorable. And so a lot of the book centers around Linus like slowly like his worldview opening up and him enjoying being out at this really pretty island, and then he starts to get to know the kids, and then he's emotionally attached to the kids. And Arthur starts very cold and distant from him, but he starts to see Linus is not a bad guy, just in a bad job. And they slowly have like a budding romance because they flirt with each other a little bit at the beginning, and then they get more and more. Arthur starts to fall in love with Linus as he watches him just get more and more attached to the kids and gets used to their idiosyncrasies with like Chauncey wanting to be a bellhop, so he's always got something for him to carry, and the Wyvern wanting a trinket of some kind for his hoard, so he always has something in his pocket to give him. And it's just this really cute realization that the world can be so much better than it was. And so you get more detail and more information, and then you find out that Arthur used to be an orphan at this specific home, and the original person who ran the place was a normal human and didn't have magic powers. And Arthur is considered a phoenix, and apparently like one of the like top classes of evil, air quotes, and like highest destruction level, like Lucy is. And he ended up getting like trapped in the basement because the guy before was terrible to him, and he like burned out the whole basement and like almost burned down the whole building. And so Arthur's always had to deal with this shame of having that. And I don't remember, I was trying to find it, but I think one of the people who runs Daikami is Arthur's ex. So he wanted to send like his most ruthless inspector so that he could shut this place down forever because he was spurned by Arthur.
Oh, I see. I see how it is.
Right. And so the rest of the story kind of follows as they get closer and closer. There's a lot of like, will they, won't they? It's very fluffy. It's very cute. They deal with some really dark themes, but they do it in a really gentle way, or he does it in a really gentle way. And as they progress, Linus realizes like he can't write the report he was going to write. He's like, these kids never get adopted because they're not going to get adopted. It's not because they're doing a bad job here. This is just their home. So he goes back to, eventually he has to leave the island, and he goes back to Daikami, and he writes a report that says that they should be good to stay. And they're like, this isn't what we wanted. And so he he literally like whistleblows on the top guys and functionally gets himself fired. He like ignores all the demerit rules. He puts up pictures of the kids. He puts up pictures of the sea all around his office, and like just is actively trying to get fired. And they start talking about how he's being too loud, and he should just go home, and that he doesn't understand how orphanages work, and his boss is disappointed to him.
Isn't that his specialty?
Right. And Linus is like, you know what? I'm going to go. And so he leaves, and he goes back to his house for a little bit, and the receptionist, who I think he nicknamed Mrs. Bubblegum because she always had bubblegum in her mouth, tells him that because of the whistleblowing that he did, his plan to keep the orphanage going was approved as long as he stayed there. Oh. And because they wanted him out of their hair, because they didn't want him dealing with anything ever again with all the information he knew. And so Linus gets what he wants. And so there's this really cute scene at the end where he gets back and all the kids who thought he was gone forever come running in and see him. And he's got a present for everybody. Aww. And then him and Arthur like do the locked eyes, realizing that they're both there in the same room, and like Arthur is ecstatic to have him back, and then they kiss, and it's so cute. And the epilogue sets them up with a scene that they're about to get married, and I just love this book.
That sounds so cute.
It's adorable, and I think he's writing a second one in this story, so there's going to be more Arthur and Linus, and I think it's going to focus on the kids a little bit more.
Okay.
Because this was definitely talking. And it was cool because it was nice to read a romance about people who are older, because like all romances tend to have like people in their early 20s who don't know anything. Uh-huh. And this was like two guys, one's late 40s, one's early 40s. Like they've been through life for a little bit and then they're discovering love a little bit later. It's just cute and really well written. And I have nothing but nice things to say about this book.
Aw, this sounds so cute. Mm-hmm. It sounds like it did a good job of like also magical creatures that are maybe not the standard things you think of.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which I always like that kind of thing. So I love vampires, but I'm tired of them sometimes too.
Right. Yeah. And these are just like random powers, random things. Some of them are like from mythology. No one knows what Chauncey is, but he's there and he's a good boy, and that it doesn't matter what you look like. And that's kind of the theme, is like it shouldn't matter what you are or what you look like. You deserve love and are worthy of love.
Aww. Mm-hmm. That's cute.
It's a good, fluffy, feel-good book.
I should read that. That sounds good. Mm-hmm. Maybe I will actually adventure into audiobooks this year and listen to it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's holding me back on a lot of books. I just don't have time to sit down and read them physically.
Yeah. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah, recommend. And the audiobook is good. I don't think it's read by the author, but it's read by someone who does a good job.
Well, that's good. I'd hope they do a good job.
Well, there's those ones that you read or you listen to and you're like, oh my God, I can't. Because they just got like such a dull voice. This one it's more of an upbeat cadence to it. So it's compelling to listen to too.
That sounds good. I will look it up.
Heck yeah.
Thank you for bringing it.
You're welcome.
I have now also forgotten what we do at this point.
I think you should have a quote for me.
Okay, I do. Let me find it again. I literally had it pulled up. Okay, I found it again. I was so happy to find this quote. It tickles me to no end.
Oh, God. I'm concerned.
And I don't think you'll know where it's from just because
Fair enough.
It's so out of hand. You would not think it's here. We'll see. Okay. I have no objection to anyone being cheerful or pleasant, but I do expect a certain decorum. I can tell you one thing. I don't propose standing idly by and letting that woman undermine the discipline, and there's something odd, I may say extremely odd, about the behavior of this household since that woman arrived, and I want you to know that I've noticed it.
You're right. I don't have anything that immediately comes to mind. I have a couple thoughts, but I don't think they're the correct thoughts.
Okay. I also took out some names. There were a few names in there that I skipped over. Mm-hmm. Maybe later when I repeat the quote to you, I can throw the names in and you'll see if you know it.
Okay, I think that's fair.
Okay.
If you know what the quote is, listener, please feel free to message us on all forms of social media. The social media formerly known as Twitter.
Do we still Facebook. Have that? Is that a thing that still posts for us?
It does. It posts our episodes. I'm not super active on it anymore. I'm more active on our Instagram and our Facebook. But if you do, I get notifications.
What about what was it? Tumblr?
Tumblr decided we no longer exist because we're
that's
a robot.
Still how we are. Okay.
Yep, we're still a robot on Tumblr because December happened and I took a break and I just haven't dealt with it yet. But
okay, that's fine. That's fine. What about the YouTubes?
And the YouTubes. We'll get back on to getting everything posted up there. I'm a couple episodes behind, but we're getting there. But we'd love to hear from you and some engagement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to talk to you about a thing that I was prepared for 2 months ago, but now I'm not.
Deal.
So sorry. Also quite
That's
timely as well, because there's a new movie coming out that's related to it. So the movie I'm talking about is Mean Girls.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. So there's a new
I love Mean
musical
Girls.
version of it coming out, which maybe I'll go see.
I'll see it with you.
Okay.
Heck yeah, I love
okay,
musicals.
let's do it. So kind of interesting. While I was visiting my parents again, lots of things brought up while I was visiting my parents, apparently. We were playing a game where we had to name the most overrated movie. And I actually brought forth Mean Girls for that as well. Because I think it is a little overrated. Like,
It is, yeah. I agree.
I think a lot of people put it up on a bit of a pedestal of like, this is the most real movie that's ever been made, and like the characters are all so well done, and I mean it's good for the time and it gets its point across, and there's some fun bits which we'll get into.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's like the best movie ever. But anyway,
It's a fun movie. It's a very quotable movie.
yes. And I think sometimes you need movies like that. Like, not every
Yeah.
movie
Oh, yeah.
has to be the best. So, anyway, Mean Girls. It starts out with... Is her name Katie?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yes, that's it. Okay. Again, I was prepared for this a while ago. Not anymore.
Lindsay Lohan.
Yes.
Playing Katie, I think.
Yes. However, it's spelled with a D, so it looks like Caddy. So everyone
Yep.
pronounces it wrong, and she says, like, she always has to apologize. Like, sorry, no, it's Katie. So anyway, she used to live in Africa because her parents were like archaeology professors or something. So she grew up for most of her life in Africa and was like homeschooled and doesn't know anything about like American high school culture. So she comes back to America because her parents moved back, and it's like her first day of high school. What's gonna happen? Oh boy. She goes to high school, immediately is confronted by the Plastics, which are the three most popular girls in school, which are Regina George, she's the ringleader. Karen, I don't remember Karen's last name.
That's okay. I don't either.
And Gretchen Wiener.
Gretchen Wieners. None for Gretchen Wiener.
We'll get to that in a second. That's the funny part. So anyway, she comes in and they're like, "Oh, you're new. I love your bracelet. It's so pretty." It's like this traditional African bracelet that she has. And she's like, "Oh, thanks. It's from Africa." Like, gives this whole history about it. And they're like, "Cool. Yeah, we'll see you around." Like, they act all sweet to her face. And then some other girl like comes up to her and is like, "Whoa, were you just talking to not Gretchen Wieners, my gosh, to Regina George?" And Katie's like, "Yeah, is that a problem?" And they're like, "She's the meanest girl in school. You need to stay away from her. Come sit with us." So this girl who's talking to her is... What's her name? Oh my God.
I just remember her as the goth friend.
Yeah. Gosh, what is her... I'm going to have to look this up. She's important. Janice?
Is it Janice?
Yeah. Yeah, it's Janice. It's totally Janice. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So Janice, who's like this kind of weird, kind of goth, emo-y kind of girl, she invites Katie over to her table. She's sitting there with her friend Damien. Damien is like the only out gay boy in school, I guess. But he owns it. He's not afraid to be himself. And he's a funny guy. But anyway, so they're sitting at the lunch table, and Caddy is like, oh my God, Katie, I'm so sorry. Katie is like in her head comparing the lunchroom to the African savannah of like the water hole where there's like all these different groups of animals and you have to learn like who's okay with who and who to avoid. And while she's thinking of that, Janice is like telling her about all the different cliques in the school. So there's like the band kids and the softball team and the jocks and like the foreign exchange students and the art kids. And then, like, there's some really, like, kind of mean groups. She's like, there's the girls who eat their feelings, and it's like this kind of group of bigger girls. She's like, and then the girls that don't eat, and these, like, really super skinny girls who are just, like, sitting at the lunch table, like, just not looking at food, like, just they're on their phones or something. And it's, like, very stereotypical, like, definitely disordered people that they're just kind of, like, playing for laughs. So I think that's why, like, the movie's, it's a little dark and insensitive. Yeah. I bet the new movie's gonna be better about it in some way. But they were just like very, I mean, I think it's good for like what the time period viewed of these people. Like you were kind of categorized of like, this is your one thing that you are, and it's what people know you as, and it's what you're stuck as being forever. And then they're kind of like the weirdo table, essentially. And then, of course, there's the Plastics, which is the Regina George group. And they rule the school because they are the apparently coolest people. And Janice says that she is kind of like in a long-time feud with them because they used to be friends, but then Regina turned evil or something like that. That's Janice's side of the story. We'll hear Regina's side of the story later. So then we go on to like some different classes. Katie's in math class, and Tina Fey is her teacher, who her name is Mrs. Norbury. I now have the cast list up so I can give you all the proper names.
Heck yeah.
So she's the math teacher, and there's a guy who's sitting in front of Katie who is Aaron.
The love interest.
Yes, Aaron Samuels. And he is the love interest. However, he's also kind of like Regina George's on again, off again boyfriend. So there's definitely like some competition there that happens. He is also kind of like a stereotypical high school boy who like does not care about anything. It is like kind of dopey and doesn't like,
he gives golden retriever energy.
Yes. Yes, he's just happy to be there. But he's got a good look, and so Katie falls in love with him immediately on the first day.
As you do. High school movies.
Yeah. And then she's like hanging out with Janice eventually, and Janice is like, you know what? You're actually really pretty, and I think, you know, we could bring down Regina George with you. So that's kind of where the undermining plot kind of starts coming in. Like Janice kind of uses Katie to infiltrate the Plastics group and serve mischief to them, basically.
Serve mischief.
Serve mischief. So anyway, Katie allows herself to one day be like beckoned over to the table by Regina George. She's like, hey, come sit with us. And she's like, okay, sure. And Regina George is like, you know, you're really pretty. And she says, thank you. And Regina's like, so you agree? She's like, yes. So you think you're pretty. Do you think you're prettier than me? And she's just like playing this mind game with her, and eventually convinces Katie like, oh, she's not pretty. Even though like she knows she is. But like before she came to the high school, when she was like just on her own being homeschooled, like she had a good self-image and she was pretty well adjusted with herself. And then suddenly there are these external forces that are telling her that she's not good enough, which is also very real, I suppose.
Hashtag real.
Yes. Then after that school day, she's about to go home from school, and Regina George comes by in the car, and she honks the horn. She's like, get in, loser. We're going shopping.
One of my most quoted phrases of all time.
Yes. I feel like everyone quotes that. It's so good. So anyway, they go to the mall because that's what people did back then. Hashtag mall culture.
Yeah, right? God.
While they're there, they, I think, see Aaron there. And that's when Katie learns that Regina and Aaron are like kind of a thing. And she's kind of disappointed by that, but it doesn't seem like she's like going to really go after him much at that point. She's just kind of like, I was going to say accepting defeat, but it's not really that. She just like, it's like, oh, okay, he's already taken, whatever.
Yeah.
While they're there, they also run into Tina Fey again. She apparently has a second job working as a waitress at the mall, at some restaurant in the mall. And she's like, wow, this is really embarrassing running into my students here. But she's wearing like this ridiculous vest that has all this like these pins and whatnot on them. She looks kind of silly. But she's just kind of like awkward, and I don't think she deserves the fate that she has, basically. After they go to the mall, they go home. Well, they go over to Regina George's house, where they meet Amy Poehler, who is Regina George's mom. And
it is Amy Poehler, isn't it? Oh my god.
Yeah.
I totally forgot.
Yeah, it's Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, the dynamic duo. So I think both of them had some part of creating it, maybe?
I know Tina Fey produced it, I think, and I don't, yeah, but I agree. I think they were writing and producing it together.
Yeah, I think they also have a hand in the new one coming up as well.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. There's more iconic lines here. They're like standing in front of the mirror, and Regina's like, "Oh gosh, I have a pimple here," and the other girls are like, "No, we can't even see it. It's fine." Or that might be a line from the new movie that I saw in one of the commercials. Sorry if it is. Spoiler alerts. I don't know.
I don't honestly remember. It could be both. It could be one or the other.
I don't know. They're just like critiquing their appearance in the mirror, and Katie's like, "Well, I guess I don't really like my nose, maybe?" Like, she doesn't really know what to say. She, like, has no concept of, like, she could possibly not be pretty as she is. And then Amy Poehler, the mom, comes in. She gives them, like, these fancy little drinks. And Katie's like, "This doesn't have alcohol in it, does it?" And she's like, "No, what kind of mother do you think I am?" But then she's like, "But if it did, you know, you can always drink here at the house. Just don't go out and do anything strange. I'm a cool mom, right?" I didn't say that right. But
yeah, she's a very aggressive about being a cool mom, but honestly, like, that's the right way to do it. Like, if you're gonna drink, at least drink in my house and not go out and party and be ridiculous. Like, it's not the worst thought this woman could have had.
But she really is trying too hard to, like, fit in with the teens. Like, she comes in, she's like, "So what's the hot goss? What's the 411?" And Regina's so mean to her. She's like, "Mom, go make us a snack."
God, I could never.
And she's like, "Okay, anything for you, Regina." And, you know, she is, like, blonde and pretty and wears pink as well. So I bet in high school she was also, like, this kind of girl. But
yeah,
then,
she
like,
gives that living vicariously through her daughter now that she's no longer considered, like, traditionally pretty.
Yeah,
air quotes.
or, like, she's not young, air quotes.
Yeah.
Even though she still looks really young. I don't know how old she actually is, but whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, they have that little get together at the house, and that's kind of that for this scene. Afterwards, Janice meets up with Katie, and she's like, "So what was it like? What did they talk about?" And she's like, "They just talked about, like, their face and how they don't like it." And Janice is like, "Oh, that's so like them." Ugh. Just like... She expected it to be, like, so awful. And this is where she hatches her evil plan, really, to infiltrate them. She's like, "You know what? You're going to bring them down, and you're going to get that boy you like, Aaron." So that's kind of like
wild fucking premise.
I know. But that's how she convinces Katie to do it. It's like she dangles this boy in front of her like a carrot.
Like, he isn't a human being with thoughts and emotions.
He's just a high school boy. It's okay. Anyway, so that's how they set their plan in action, and they kind of, for each of the girls, they pick a different thing to sabotage them with. So for Regina George, she's, like, very fit and very concerned with her diet. And so Katie, like, comes up with, or I don't know who comes up with it, but they hatch this plan to, like, give her these nutrition bars that they that Katie's parents would like hand out to people in Africa because they're like really densely packed in nutrients and fats and everything. So like you have energy. But she gives them to Regina and she's like, it's these really special bars that we order from overseas and they like are supposed to just melt your fat away. And Regina totally believes it. And she's like, what are these ingredients? I can't understand this language. And Katie's like, oh no, it's just the African language. I don't remember which one she said. I'm so sorry. I know Africa is not one place. I just don't remember what language she said it was. I'm so sorry.
I understand.
But anyway, and Regina's like, oh, okay. And so she just asks Katie for these bars all the time. And she eats way too many of them each day. And one day she comes in and she's wearing sweatpants. And they're like, what happened to you? And she's like, none of my other clothes fit. I can only wear sweatpants. And they like exclude her from their exclusive table because she's wearing sweatpants on Pink Day. Which they wear pink on Wednesdays.
On Wednesdays, we wear pink.
That's another very key point.
I say as I'm sitting in my sweatpants recording this.
Lol, same. It's also not Wednesday when we're recording it, though, so we're fine.
That's true. We're fine. It's not Wednesday.
Yeah, it's the weekend. Let's see. What else happens? So, Gretchen Wieners. I think she has, honestly, the best sabotage out of all of them, or the best undermine. So basically they're trying to get her to fight with Regina and just like break up the group that way. So during the holidays, like a common thing for all high schools that they kind of play on with this is these little like holiday shout outs where they like bring in a candy cane that's like, hi, thinking of you. And like you send one to all your friends. And so they're passing them out. Basically they had Katie go and buy like 5 different candy canes or however many, I don't know. She bought a lot of candy canes all for Karen instead of anyone else. I think she bought some for Regina as well, but like for Karen and Regina, but none for Gretchen. And so then they come in to divvy out all the candy canes and everyone in the class is getting them. And Gretchen's like sitting there expectantly waiting. And whoever was delivering them, she's like, and none for Gretchen Wieners, and just runs out of the classroom. And there's just like a bunch of other things that like Katie kind of prompts Regina to say almost to Gretchen, where she's like being put down and like none of her ideas are shining through. And then it kind of culminates on their Christmas performance. They're doing this dance routine to, what is it, Rocking Around the Christmas Tree or something? I don't remember what
something
it is.
like that. Yeah,
basically,
but it's like super scandalous and like or scandalous.
It's like not a good dance, and their costumes are too risque for high school. And then it's funny. Regina's mom comes out with a camcorder and she's like dancing the choreography in the aisleway while she's recording them as well.
Dance moms.
Yeah, gosh, Dance Moms. That's a show.
Oh yes, it is.
So anyway, before they go on the stage though, Gretchen, she's like, these costumes are so fetch. And she's been trying to get this word fetch to like get off the ground. She's trying to make it a thing. Basically it means like very cool. And like Regina has just had enough of it. And she's like, Gretchen, stop saying fetch. You can't make fetch a thing. And just like snaps at her. And Gretchen is so sad. Like she is heartbroken that Regina has turned on her like this. They still do the performance, but like she's not at her best. And you can tell. And it's very sad.
Yeah.
And then afterwards they like are all in a group hug, except they kind of like push her away. So now she's kind of like out of the crowd. So we've taken down the plastics that way. I don't remember how they sabotage Karen. I feel like they don't need to because she's kind of like depicted as really not smart. So I think she just kind of like doesn't need sabotaging because she sabotages herself.
Understood. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Do you remember if there's anything special for her? I don't think so.
I can't think of anything.
I think they just use her to be like part of Gretchen's downfall, where it's like, even Karen is better than her.
I think she just gives away information freely.
That's right.
Yeah,
she dishes the hot goss. She's the one who actually tells Katie about why Regina doesn't like Janice. And it was because there was a pool party and Regina wanted to spread a nasty rumor about Janice that she was a lesbian. And she's like, but I can't go to a pool party with a lesbian. What if she hit on me while I was in my bathing suit? And just like...
So homophobic.
Yeah. A, very homophobic. B, potentially not true. We never really know.
Right.
We'll circle back to that. I saw a funny meme online about that joke that will come... Well, not really a joke, but we'll come back to it. It might be a joke, actually. So anyway, that's why Janice kind of is the way she is now, because she basically, like, almost completely redid her image, essentially. Regina also tried to spread a rumor that she was, like, on drugs or something, which also was not true. She was just trying to make her, like, the most nasty person to everybody else. So she was shunned by society. So that's why she wants to get back at Regina. She wants her to then be shunned by society. Oh my gosh, what happens here? Oh, it's a party. So Katie's parents are going out of town and she holds a party at her house. She's like,
as you do.
She was just like, I'm going to have my friends over. Like, Regina's going to come over. It's going to be so fun. Like, she did not understand what a party was. So she thought it was going to be like 3 or 4 people. Regina invited like the whole school over and it gets out of hand immediately. However, Katie and Aaron do end up kissing at this party. And Regina sees, and she gets mad at Katie because Aaron is her boy. Ooh, also all during this time, Katie's been really good at math, but she's been pretending she's bad at math so Aaron could be her tutor.
Yes.
So that's kind of how like they got close together. And then she would get like awful scores on the tests. And sorry, circling back to this other plot point. We'll come back to the party in a second. Tina Fey, she like kind of realizes that Katie is faking it and she's really disappointed in her. And she's like, I don't know why you're sabotaging yourself here. Like, I know you're smart. You're better than this. You need to like do better. I'm going to push you to do better. They kind of later take that quote, like Katie's saying something to Regina. She was just like distraught that she got called to the teacher's office. She's like, she told me like she's just gonna push me and she's a pusher. And Regina's like, she's like pushing drugs on you or something. Like that's Regina's go-to, I'm gonna sabotage your life. So they almost ruined Tina Fey's life by spreading a rumor that she's a drug dealer. And they like have cops searching her house and everything. And it's like really serious, actually. Yeah. Like it literally could be life-changing. We'll get back to that in a second. Going back to the party. So Regina, after she sees that Katie was kissing Aaron, she runs home or drives home, finds this old book that she had made at one point with the friends called the Burn Book. And basically they would paste pictures from yearbooks into this scrapbook that they would make and just write like bad things about people. Like this person is like gosh, I can't even remember any of the mean things that they would say.
It's rude. It's so rude.
Just like rude slurs and calling names and just like being mean. So she writes something. It's like this whole dramatic scene. You don't see exactly what she's doing, how the camera angles are. So you think she's doing this all about Katie. And they're like, she's a ugly slut. And then you see the picture and it's not Katie. It's Regina herself. Which for the longest time, I was kind of confused. Like, why did she do this? I didn't really understand the ending. But then I finally got it. So basically, she's trying to now undermine Katie and make it look like the burn book belongs to her. So she basically makes a copy of the book and just like throws it down the staircase of the school. So everyone sees these random papers with all of their pictures and all of these mean names. And then Regina takes the book to the principal's office and she's like, I found this in Katie's room and I just don't understand how she could say such mean things about people. So Katie is completely sabotaged, gets called to the principal's office, called out in front of everybody. And then Tina Fey is cleared of all of her crimes, luckily, her not crimes. So she's in charge of this big assembly for all of the girls to come, and she's like, we need to like learn how to get along because this is not okay. You girls do not need to be going after each other. You need to like be there for each other, basically. And it comes out that the book was actually Regina's. And this is kind of a weird move that I don't think would actually play out well in an actual high school. But she says, everyone raise your hand if you've been personally victimized by Regina George. Like, you can't have an assembly of saying everyone needs to be nice to each other and then like call out one student in front of everybody. That's not allowed.
Yeah, right.
So of course everyone raises their hand. And Regina's like real sad. For obvious reasons. But basically they all agree, like, yeah, we're not going to, like, hurt each other anymore, I guess. It's going to be fine. Yeah. And then they have this weird, like, team building exercise where they're like, I forgive everybody for such and such.
Yeah.
And
I forgot about this part of the movie.
Have to do a trust fall. However, Regina they don't catch her or something?
Yeah, they let her drop.
Yeah. And is that where she gets hurt?
No. She gets hit by a bus, doesn't she?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, hold on.
Yep.
We're skipping ahead. So, anyway, Katie, nonetheless, is still in detention because of her involvement in the whole thing.
Yeah, she still did bad things.
Yes. So, to live out her punishment, I guess, they say you can do detention or you can miss prom and play on the mathletes team. And they're like, wait, you're good at math? And she's like, yeah, I am. And so she picks to go on the mathletes team, which Tina Fey coaches, of course. And it's her and like all these nerdy boys. And they've made it to like the finals, the state finals or something. And they ask her like, so what is the square, or, oh my gosh, I don't even remember what the question is. Here's me not doing math. I remember the answer. Don't remember the question.
The limit does not exist.
Yes. And she was thinking of like, it was on March 23rd. And I remember Aaron's hair looked such and such a way. And on the board, this is what was behind his beautiful head. And she remembers the limit does not exist. And she says it and they win and it's wonderful. And she still makes it in time for prom. And surprise, surprise, somehow she's crowned as prom queen. Yeah. And she's making this speech and she's like, I just want to apologize to everybody for everything that I did. And I don't deserve this crown. And it's like this stupid little plastic tiara that they gave her. So she like breaks it in half and she's like, you know what? Regina deserves the crown. And she like flies off a piece to Regina. And then she's like, and Janice also, she's beautiful. She deserves one. And she like names almost every individual character that we see at any point during the movie, and like they all get a little piece of the crown. And she's like, we all just need to work together and be friends, and solves the world's problems by giving out pieces of a tiara.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did forget it right after the assembly, I think is when she actually Regina does get hit by the bus because she's in like this big like back brace when she goes to prom.
Yes, because I think she was like ranting about how everything wasn't fair, and then she backs up, and then the bus hits her.
Yeah. She lives, which is good.
She's fine.
Yeah, it is kind of a shocking scene, and I think Katie does a great job with the reaction there. It's like one of those things where it's like you can't believe it just happened. Like she doesn't know what to do. She just kind of like stops and stares. It's ridiculous. But yeah, Regina lives, which is good for her. Oh my, there are a lot of children and dogs outside my window.
I could just hear something happening.
There's a kerfuffle.
A whole kerfuffle.
Okay, I think they've moved on now. Okay. Anyway.
Joseph recording.
And after that, like, Katie kind of reverts back. She had been, like, all dolled up as one of the plastics for a while, but she, like, comes back down to earth and she kind of becomes normal again. And Janice at prom, she meets this other guy and he's like, are you Middle Eastern? She's like, I'm Lebanese. Like that was kind of another through line joke, is that she's Lebanese, which I don't know how they got to that. Well, that's part of the meme I'm going to explain in a second. Anyway, he's like, oh, I like exotic girls or something weird like that is also kind of out of hand.
Super skeezy.
Yeah. But I mean, they find love, I guess. He hangs out with them at the end, and it seems like it's a fine relationship, I guess. I don't know. And then Regina, she recovers from her injury of being hit by a bus the next year and takes out her anger through lacrosse playing instead. She's captain of the lacrosse team. And then there's like the new group of plastics, like the freshman plastics that come in, and Katie says, like, as the ending narration, she's like, but we know how to deal with them. And in her head, they're like all getting hit by a bus, and then she like snaps out of it, and they have safely walked past the bus, but they also, like, Katie doesn't care over that. They're giving them weird looks. She's just like, they can do their own thing. So that's Mean Girls. But anyway, the meme that I saw is that it might all be a misunderstanding of Regina's, that she thought lesbian and Lebanese were the same. So,
you know,
what someone was saying is that maybe Janice had told Regina that she was Lebanese once, and Regina didn't know what it was. And she, like, kind of, like, based on what she thought it was, she kind of made all these rumors. And all this time, poor Janice is like, no, it's not lesbian, it's Lebanese. And by the end, like, finally, Regina is smart enough to realize, I don't think it really holds water just because of the other things that she says. But,
right.
I mean,
yeah.
it's would be funny if it was the joke.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Any other memorable moments of the movie you can think of?
No, I think you touched on all of them.
All right, cool. Good. Yeah, as I said, I was prepared to talk about it a while ago, and now I don't remember anything.
I think you did pretty good.
Good, thanks.
That was pretty good.
Yay. I hope the new movie is good, because, as I said, there's problems in this one.
Yeah.
But
It's definitely of its time.
yeah.
And it's a little problematic and doesn't age the best, but the quotes are still fun and it's silly. I also have the cast list up. I didn't realize Neil Flynn was Katie's dad.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah. With the janitor from Scrubs. And I'm like, wait, I know you. Yeah, and Rachel McAdams is Regina George. I freaking did not realize how many people, like, I know without realizing they were in this movie.
Uh-huh. So anyway, that's all I have to say about that. Do you want my quote again?
I would love your quote again.
Okay, I'm going to add in one of the names, but not the other one because it will give it away.
All right.
All right. I have no objection to anyone being cheerful or pleasant, but I do expect a certain decorum. I can tell you one thing, Winifred, I don't propose standing idly by and letting that woman undermine the discipline, and there's something odd, I may say, extremely odd, about the behavior of this household since that woman arrived, and I want you to know that I've noticed it.
So my first instinct is Mary Poppins.
Okay.
It feels like Mary Poppins or like one of the nanny movies. But that's all that comes to mind.
Okay, well, you're right. It is.
Wait, really? Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, Julie Andrews. That's the only thing that came to my mind when you said that.
It's, I don't propose standing idly by and letting that woman, Mary Poppins, undermine the discipline.
All right.
Good job.
Nailed it in one.
I feel like that's one of the first quotes in a while that we've gotten. That's not true. We bring a lot of things that we've both seen. So yeah. Okay. Well, it was an obscure one, and I'm very proud of you.
Thanks. I wasn't confident. I just, for some reason, my brain went Mary Poppins.
It was good. I don't know what to do now. I think we need a stupid outro now, don't we?
We need a word first.
Oh, okay.
For next time. Generator, hello again.
Hello.
And help us. What now?
The next word is behead.
Well, that's a dark word. Behead.
I think we could find some upbeat media for it, though.
Upbeat beheadings.
Yeah. I know exactly what I'm going to bring, but I'm also going to have a secret second thing that I might slip in talking about.
Is it related to Marie Antoinette in any way, shape, or form?
It's not.
Wow.
It's not.
All right. Well,
both of the things I want to talk about are not. I might... Wait, I don't have the quote next week. Darn it. Yeah, I might secretly bring a super secret second thing.
I mean, if you want to bring the quote next week, that's fine.
Okay, maybe we'll both bring a quote. If I can find a good quote that sums up the thing I want to talk about secondarily.
All right, deal.
The thing is, I don't think I can make a whole podcast out of the second thing. I just want to mention it. So that's why I want the quote. But anyway.
You're very excited about beheading, and I'm very concerned.
Hooray! Beheading!
Beheadings.
Hashtag every French person in the 1700s.
You're not, all right, so end of the podcast. Thanks for getting to the end of it. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed and we made you laugh, feel free to reach out to us or to send this podcast to someone else and be like, hey, these two are kind of funny. Listen to them.
Kind of funny, you know.
We make each other laugh, and that's the most important part.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's it. So thanks again. And as always, I've been Stephanie.
And I've definitely been Allison.
And don't let Big Fence get in your way.
Goodbye.